So, as you've said, Christopher, with your own journey, every organization needs a tech stack that's unique to their needs and their goals. What do you see, and Christine, what are you seeing out there in terms of what companies specifically are trying to address by either building out or fixing their MarTech stack? And, more important, are they achieving the goals, and how are they measuring success with, getting this MarTech stack orchestrated into one cohesive unit?
Yeah, for me, and not all marketing leaders, I think, maybe think this way. I think most of them do because they have to today. But marketing's primary goal is contribution to pipeline. Whether you're in a B2B or B2C, it's all about, again, getting that buyer to that next step in order to get a sale. I think for me, again, it's about building that right stack. I remember reading the MarTech Awards, and they actually had dozens of companies actually put in visually kind of their entire stack, and to the point, they were all different, completely different models, similar in terms of attract, educate, nurture, etc. But everyone had something very, very different. And again, I think it's specific to every company, every market. More specifically, that market, if you're selling software versus if you're selling maybe service, again, different across the board. I think part of the challenge with marketing leaders is the distraction of a shiny new thing. Ooh, this tech is really cool. Oh, team member brings it to me going, we should use Trello boards, right? But you keep stacking more and more. And I love the way Christine said it. It's the layer cake kind of picture. Much to what Christine said as well. It's about how they're connected as equal in terms of, again, not just having a bunch of tools to make one siloed efficiency over here, but really how they're connected and how they talk to each other is equally important. And that comes about with, again, defining what that MarTech strategy is up front.
Right. Christine?
Yeah, I totally agree that with Christopher's very last statement is that there needs to be a MarTech strategy. And looking at those stacks, I think the award were called Stackies Award or something. It was really kind of funny.
Yeah.
Like 50 some odd examples. And each stack is very different. And I also think that it reflects really the maturity of marketing within an organization. We all banty about terms such as ABM, ABS, omni-channel, and it goes on. In reality, not many organizations, marketing organizations, are sophisticated enough, and that's not a negative, it's just reality, to embrace these concepts, right? And so part of that stack is, where am I realistically in an organization in terms of my own sophistication, in terms of what my buyer expects from me? And not everybody wants to buy digitally. Not everybody wants to have a digital experience. And so figuring out, first of all, how do I connect and engage and build a persistent relationship with my customer, and then having that say, well, what is my strategy for my marketing tech? What's the data that I need? What interactions need to be automated? What interactions don't need to be automated? And have that drive that stack. I think we're too quick to go, I call it the Google effect, right? It's too quick to say, let me have that instant answer. Oh, this is Cisco stack. Well, I'm just going to go build Cisco stack and use what Cisco uses. Then, I'm good. Well, you're not good. You're bad, right? It's not going to work. I pulled a couple of stats that I thought would be really interesting in sort of talking about, well, what's really happening within these MarTech stacks. Good if I could talk today, especially since I'm on this. But it said one of the stats was 42% of marketers admit that their technology is fragmented or piecemealed. I mean, that's pretty high. And that the integrated best-of-breed marketers get the most value out of their stack, right? And so it points back to what Christopher says. We really need to have a strategy. And yes, it's good to look at best practices, but that doesn't mean we emulate those best practices. Let's really understand what we need to achieve. And the thing that really struck me on the way in this morning to this was to say only 3% of marketers get full value out of the MarTech stack. That's like, wait, that means 97% of marketers have invested all of this money and they're not able to achieve their objectives, whatever those objectives may be. So I really do think that at this point, what marketers need to do is to say, why am I buying all this technology? Am I buying it because the guy down the street is, or am I buying it because I'm very clear as to what that problem is it's going to solve, and it's very clear as to the gap that it fills when I look at everything else that I've got in my arsenal of technology.
So going back to the question of how marketers are measuring success, are they still looking at the ROI of the individual technologies that they're purchasing, or are they looking at, we're putting this MarTech stack together and we've completed X part of the project, so that's a success, and I'm measuring that because it's a completion. What are you seeing in the market? And Christopher, maybe how have you measured success when you've gone into a new company and rebuilt the stack?
Yeah, and Christine just said something important too. The investment, not just in dollars, but in resources and time. There's a lot of energy that goes into building the right stack, and built wrong, it's just going to make teams less efficient. So one of the things I absolutely look at when I first start, and by the way, I'm kind of in that journey right now. I've inherited a lot of things. And there's some things that are just flat out wrong, and we're going to change them because it's making the team less efficient. So I look at the proven results or return isn't just marketing's contribution to pipeline and all the measurable things we can do from a revenue and booking perspective, impact to sales, but just team efficiencies. And I've been able to achieve a level of lift in performance by improving efficiencies, by also making them more effective. And this is where Marketing Tech Stack can really, really help teams in terms of how they collaborate, how they plan, how they budget, how they execute. All those different pieces, I think, again, go back into that defining what that stack strategy is. And really put pen to paper, start there, just outline what are those objectives. And then everything kind of comes along following that, right? Again, that's where you start asking, I call it the 5 whys, right? And even if you just ask 3 whys, you're going to back into the right strategy, the right goal before ever thinking about the technology. I think for some marketing leaders, and I do have many colleagues that I talk to throughout the year, and it's so interesting to see how we all come to the problem completely differently. It's like we're all trying to solve the same problems, but we're all solving them very, very differently. And I just find that fascinating. It has less to do with how many tools that are out there. It really has to do with, again, making it specific to your company in that market. I think that's Christine, you said it. Don't just take Cisco Stack and say, oh, they're doing good, so I can do good too by just copying that, because that's not how it works.
Yeah, let me add on to that, because that's a really good answer. I think the other thing that in terms of measuring the success is in addition to all the points that Christopher made out, is looking at decision success, meaning that is the marketing team able to make the right sets of decisions, meaning is the segmentation strategy correct? Is the personalization strategy effective? Meaning, are we getting positive feedback from the customer that yes, not only did that feel familiar at the right level, but was that the content or the sequence, the waterfall sequence of the content of value for their specific information. So, so a lot of it isn't quantitative. A lot of it is looking at it qualitatively to say, am I able to make the right decisions? And I had this really fascinating conversation yesterday with the head of SAP Collaboration, the JAM product line. Her name is Daisy. And Daisy, we were talking about this, and Daisy's point was, in her view, was we're drowning in data, and so the big challenge is, if I understand what I need in order to make the decision, right? Am I making the right decision, and am I focusing on the right outcome as it relates to achieving a corporate and customer objectives? Which is very different from, can I report and analyze everything? It's really, am I looking at the right things, and can I act on that data and make the right decision? So not very black and white, but I think very, very important as we start looking at all of this technology, and especially if we start layering into it this thing called AI, and machine learning, where it isn't, it's not like a toaster which pops out cooked toast. I mean, you sort of like have to apply some judgment here. So that's the other side of, I think, in terms of measuring success. And again, it's not black and white. It does require a lot of qualitative data to determine that.